A lot has been said about George Washington's teeth. Some stories say he had wooden dentures, while others mention materials like ivory and bones. Back in the 1700s, dentures were just getting started and we didn't have the advanced materials and techniques that we have today. We do know that George Washington started having trouble with his teeth very early in life. In fact, he lost his first tooth when he was about 24 years old. And then after that, he continued having so much trouble that he got one tooth removed about a rate of one per year. And this was probably because back then they used to crack walnuts with their teeth, and they used to take medications that contained mercury, which people back then believed that could help cure diseases like smallpox. Now, one thing that is worth mentioning is that there wasn't a lot of tooth decay back in the 18th century because sugar wasn't as widely available as it is today. Only rich people could afford to buy sugar. But with the rise in the sugar plantations in the Caribbean and the expansion of the sea trade routes, then sugar became a lot more available and affordable, and then tooth decay started becoming a problem in the colonies at the time. Now try to imagine that dentistry in those times wasn't a well-established profession. In fact, the first dentist came to America in 1760 from Europe. And when people had trouble with their teeth, there weren't a lot of dentists back then, and they had to go to local healers, which sometimes that meant going to a barber or going to a blacksmith to get a tooth pulled with forged iron tools, because the only known solution for a toothache was to remove it. But Washington, of course, was part of the elite, and he had a dentist, and in fact he was treated by a couple of dentists in his life. We've learned that George Washington had about 4 sets of dentures in his life. And contrary to people's belief that the dentures were made out of wood, they were actually made out of ivory from rhinoceros horns and human teeth. And the human teeth were inlaid into the ivory, and these were probably obtained from slaves that got paid for the teeth that got pulled out. Now there's also evidence that Washington's dentist tried transplanting some of these teeth into his gums to try to make him look better, but they only caused him a lot of discomfort and it just didn't work. And when Washington became president, he had a set of dentures that had bolts and had hinges, and they had brass and gold and some springs to help him keep in place. But they were so uncomfortable that he constantly had to take Laudanum, which was an early pain medication. In fact, you can still see a reminder of how much he struggled in portraits and, of course, immortalized in the face of the dollar bill. One of Washington's lower dentures is still on display in the Museum of Dentistry in Baltimore, Maryland, where you can actually get a glimpse into the challenges that he faced trying to find comfortable false teeth. So there you have it. George Washington didn't really have wooden dentures. And now that you know all this, aren't you glad for modern dentistry? Well, if you like this story, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can enjoy more interesting content like this. See you next time.